You are watching a technical assistance video provided by the Family Effect Project, engagement for families, educators, and the community together. Funded through a grant to insource the Indiana Statewide Family Engagement Center. Every learner, every family, every educator.
Hello, thanks for joining us today for our Family Engagement Collaborative Leadership Learning Series. Today's focus will be on intentionally being culturally responsive through family engagement practices. I am definitely not an expert and find that I am learning daily in this journey of supporting families. And what I have found is that being culturally responsive isn't about having all the right answers. It's about being open, particularly reflective, and willing to listen and adapt. Later in this session, I'll invite the district leaders to share some of the strategies that they've been trying in your own locations, because we know that the most powerful ideas come from the field, from leaders who are experimenting, adapting, and learning alongside their staff and families. I'd like for us to frame this conversation as a space for learning together, sharing what's working, and even maybe naming some of the challenges we face. We will make the slides available at the end of the session, and I will include live links to resources that you're welcome to explore. I am Heather Hester, and I direct the family engagement work in the Bartholomew Consolidated School Corporation, otherwise known as BCSC. And we are one of 5 districts in Indiana who received a grant to focus specifically on implementing family engagement practices in our schools. BCSC is a large district located in Columbus, Indiana, where we are also home to Cummins. So if you know diesel engines, Toyota, NTN, and we're also famous for our architecture. This all lends itself to providing a lot of diversity and richness in culture in our community and our schools. This slide shows a breakdown of our schools in BCSC. We serve right under 12,000 students. It's about 11,500 who represent a wide spectrum of socioeconomic differences, races, ethnicities, languages, and also learning needs. In our time together today, our learning goal is to consider ways we can build equitable, culturally responsive practices through our work with family engagement. When we talk about cultural responsiveness today, we'll be referring to the ability of schools to hone and adapt to the lived experiences, languages, and cultures of all families. When we talk about culture, we will refer to how it encompasses race, ethnicity, language, gender, family dynamics, traditions, customs, etc. So there is so much of a student's home life that makes up his or her culture. As I mentioned, our 5 districts are focusing on family engagement specifically because research has proven that when there's intentionality around connecting home and schools in partnership, students' outcomes also improve. Attendance, higher rate of course success, behavior and social skills, and graduation rates are directly impacted. When we specifically are using family engagement strategies that are also culturally responsive, we discover opportunities for more families to feel like they belong and will become more involved. And we do this by building trust and respectful partnerships and becoming attentive to understanding services that are more aligned with our family's actual needs. Cultural responsiveness also allows for more effective communication, even when, or especially when, it necessitates hard conversations, and the breakdown of barriers, which leads to improved outcomes. Lastly, focusing on families through an asset-based lens allows for us to involve broader perspectives in important decision-making and creates more authentic two-way relationships and nurtures an inclusive environment for all of our students. Sometimes understanding the barriers that families and schools face allows for us to continue to be asset-minded. These are just a few common barriers, but it's important to remember that not everyone has access, skills, resources, background, or understanding to find solutions around the challenges facing many of our families. And that can be an opportunity for schools to meet families where they are. When we come up against barriers, it can feel easy to fall into missteps with our families. We know families come with different needs, languages, schedules, and access to technology. So if we're only sending information in one way, some groups also get left out. Just because a family member can't attend an event or respond right away doesn't mean that they don't care. Often, work schedules, transportation, or past negative school experiences are the barrier. And when schools spotlight just a narrow slice of the dominant culture's holidays or customs, other families feel invisible, and so representation matters. It can be easier to invite family members to provide logistics support. However, families should be more than volunteers who bring snacks, run copies, or donate for fundraisers. They are the experts of and have insight into their children and the community, and that should shape our decision making. And when we employ deficit thinking, phrases like hard to reach families place the blame on families instead of reflecting on what schools could do differently. So even just shifting to asset-based language honors the strengths that all of our families bring. So you could try phrasing like families we haven't reached yet, or families navigating obstacles. There are several possible touch points or opportunities within a school for families to feel important, involved, and connected. In most cases, the classroom or team teachers will be the strongest relationship. A few practices really can make a difference. First, we can use plain language and balanced messages. Families want to hear about the challenges their child might be facing, but they also want to know what's going well and what should be celebrated. And that really helps to build trust. Leading with those celebrations builds trust, and then also using everyday language rather than jargon or educational acronyms helps families feel more included. Second, teachers can invite families to share strategies from their own cultures. So every household has approaches to problem solving, storytelling, or discipline that can support learning. When teachers ask families to share these strategies, it affirms the value of their culture and builds stronger homeschool connections. And finally, we can provide multiple ways for families to check in. So not everyone can make it to evening events. So offering options like quick phone calls, email, parent square messages, or even drop-ins during the events can create flexibility. And the more pathways we open, the more likely families will find one that works for them. When we think about cultural responsiveness in our district, it's important to recognize that this work has to start with us as individuals and as educators. That's why BCSE created a culturally responsive professional development pathway for staff. We met 3 times throughout the year and built on previous learning each time. We began by examining our own identities, and this meant reflecting on the ways our backgrounds, life experiences, and values shape how we move through the world and how we see and interact with others. And that reflection helps us understand the lenses we bring into the classroom and our school environments. From there, we spent time learning about microaggressions, those subtle comments or actions that can unintentionally cause harm. We looked at how they might show up in our schools and the impact that they can have on students, families, and colleagues. And one tool that we used in this process is the Paseo Circles of Identity protocol. This is a resource that guided us through structured conversations about our identities and experiences, and it really helped us create space for vulnerability and trust and deepened our understanding of both ourselves and of each other. Another step in our culturally responsive PD pathway was learning about implicit bias. We started by taking the Harvard implicit bias test, which gave us a chance to reflect on the unconscious assumptions we may hold. And we then explored the circles of socialization. This framework helped us see how families, communities, and institutions shape our beliefs and behaviors over time. And from there, we shifted into action. We studied strategies for interrupting microaggressions in the moment, whether they occur between students, between staff, or even in our family interactions. We also took a hard look at our own school environments, examining everything from classroom visuals to disciplinary practice, to identify where maybe bias might be showing up. But finally, we worked together to create action plans for future implementation. And these plans were not just theoretical, they outlined concrete steps that their schools could take to build more inclusive and equitable spaces for students and families. This pathway is ongoing. It is not a one and done training. It's part of how we are building a stronger foundation for culturally responsive practice across our district. So we talked about teachers. Another influential role is administrators. Administrators set the tone for family engagement across the school. First, they can model family-centered practices at school events. So when principals and administrators take time to welcome families, ask questions, and listen, it shows that relationship building is a priority at every level. Second, they can work to build flexible meeting structures. Not every family can attend the traditional evening meeting. And so offering small group coffees, rotating times, or even virtual options communicates that you value families' time and want to meet them where they are. And finally, time should be protected for teachers to engage with families. Too often, communication becomes a one-way push of information, and administrators can create structures and schedules that give teachers the space to build authentic two-way conversations with families. And this is where that real partnership begins to grow. At BCSC, I've seen our administrators make it a priority to model family-centered practices at their events. For example, principals and assistant principals make a point to stand at the door to personally greet families as they arrive. At the start of events, our leaders open with a clear acknowledgement of families' role in student success. You'll often hear principals say things like, "We're partners in your child's learning and your voice matters here." And that consistent message reinforces that partnership that we're really trying to build. And instead of just delivering information one way, BCSE administrators invite families to share back. We've used quick tools like exit ticket surveys, sticky note boards in the lobby, or even informal conversations at the end of events. And those practices give families an easy way to share their hopes and priorities, and they help us shape decisions with families, not just for them. Office staff play such an important role in family engagement because they are often the first people families meet when they walk into a school. So first, they serve as the first welcome, a warm smile, eye contact, and whenever possible, a greeting in the family's home language communicates right away that they belong there and they are wanted there. Second, they can provide multilingual signage and assistance with forms. The front office is where families often navigate the most paperwork. So making sure directions and resources are clear and also available in multiple languages removes barriers and hopefully reduces some of that frustration. And finally, office staff can offer alternatives for families without consistent internet or phone access. So not every family can receive a parent square notification or answer an email quickly, but having that backup system like printed calendars or paper copies of forms or in-person reminders ensures that all of the families stay connected. District leaders have the power to shape the systems that either support or limit our family engagement efforts. So first of all, district leaders can create structures for authentic family voice in decision making. And that could mean advisory committees, parent panels, and focus groups, or including families in curriculum adoption processes. The key is that families aren't just given feedback after decisions are made, but they're part of shaping those decisions from the start. Second, they can fund translation and interpretation services as essential, not optional. And if they can't access information in their home language, we're effectively shutting them out. So, prioritizing these services communicates that every family deserves access and voice. I know that in my district, we have access to interpretation headphone devices, and we also have a team of interpreters that serve our Spanish, Haitian Creole, Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese speaking families, and they work to provide both translation services, but also translations for written work for school and district communications. And finally, the district leaders can train and evaluate staff on cultural competence and family engagement. Professional development is important, but it has to be paired with accountability. So when a staff knows that cultural responsiveness is both expected and supported, and professional development and training is offered consistently, we see stronger, more inclusive partnerships across the entire district. BCSC and our partnering districts have been working hard to bring families into the heart of our schools. I have heard of schools hosting multilingual tech training nights where families learn together how to navigate platforms like Canvas or PowerSchool. And it serves as not just a training, but also it's empowering families and allowing them to see a way that they can support their students learning at home. We also hold parent-student goal-setting conferences where families sit down with their child and teacher or teaching team to co-define goals, oftentimes allowing the student to lead the conversation. And this creates a shared commitment between school, home, and the student. I know districts have assembled family advisory panels that give diverse groups of families a seat at the table. They regularly review initiatives and provide input before we finalize big decisions, ensuring family voice shapes the direction that's taken. And on a more personal note, our superintendent makes himself accessible through weekly breakfast chats at a local diner. He sits at Rhodes Family Diner every Friday morning, and families know that they can drop in, share feedback, or simply connect and get to know him. There are also traditional events like muffins with moms and donuts with dad, which may sound small, but really do provide meaningful points of connection. And at the secondary level, we've built in structures at BCSC like team cohorts at the high schools and dedicated team prep time at the middle schools, both of which give staff time to coordinate around student and families' needs. And this is a point where I would like to open it up and hear from the other districts about work that they're doing. I know that we meet regularly and I hear about things that are going on in other parts of the state. And I know that they're probably sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, we do this. And also we do these other things. So I'd like to open it up to hear from the other districts doing the work. What is happening in your schools?
Hi, Heather. It's Tabitha from Warren. I'd love to chime in. I think you've given us some really great tips on how to meet our families in a culturally responsive way. So I am here in MSD Warren Township on the far east side of Indianapolis. We have a very large Black and Brown community. Spanish and Haitian Creole are our two non-English speaking languages that we deal with. In particular, with our Spanish speaking families, I think we've done a really great job connecting with them, having a district bilingual liaison who her sole job is to connect with our Spanish speaking families and our Portuguese speaking families. But one challenge that we found is a lot of our newcomer families don't have internet access or US phone service. So a great platform that we have used to connect with them is WhatsApp. And we have a Padres Latinos de Warren group on there that all of our families who speak Spanish are invited to join. And it gives them a great, safe place to chat with each other back and forth. But we found that WhatsApp is a great tool to connect with those families. We also have provided pocket talkers for all of our front office staff and our family engagement liaisons, so that no matter what family comes through those doors, we have some type of tool that's going to be able to help us communicate with that family. So we love that. Another great thing that we've done, we have updated our attendance codes to include a religious exemption attendance code. So our families who are not of the Christian denomination, but they have a religious celebration, we are absolutely able to accommodate that with an updated attendance code. Again, honoring that family and their traditions. And finally, we love pairing our newcomer students at the high school with a native language speaking student so that they feel comfortable going through their school schedule with somebody who is typically from their same country of origin, but just making sure that that student feels connected right off the bat.
Those are great examples. Thank you, Tabitha.
I'll jump in. Jeremy from Goshen Community Schools, Goshen, Indiana. One of the things that our district's really been talking about is, in the past we would have different groups go to different areas for an event to kind of make sure that we're providing the translation we are. And what we're shifting to more as a choice. So we meet as a group and then let them more choose if they would like to go to that translation. Because I think we've done more assuming that maybe our Hispanic families need it. And so that's been a good one that I felt progress from event to event to just see that need that our families may be able to and want that English dialogue instead. I think what it also does is it brings all our families together at once and makes them feel as one group instead of separated in different areas.
Great example. Thank you, Jeremy. Love that. It makes me think about sometimes in our district, we've had events where there's been an option to sit in this room and hear the presentation in English, or you can go into this room and hear it in Spanish. And I'm sometimes surprised at how few people choose to sit and listen to it in Spanish. And so, yeah, it just kind of makes me wonder if that makes it feel singled out or if that's necessary. So I love that being mindful of what that preference might be. Another thing I thought of while we were talking is partnering with local organizations that support our families and their youth has been really impactful. We have an organization called Two for Toro who works to support our Latino population, and and Su Casa also works with our Latino families. And then Umoja is our Black and Black biracial organization that provides extra support for our students and our families. And so making those partnerships strong has been really helpful between our district and them as well. So as we close out together today, you have two reflection opportunities. The first one is to think about what's maybe a new idea, new learning, or just plain old good reminder that's something that you want to encourage your colleagues to keep doing or remember to continue to do yourself. So what's something that you want to remember, new learning or a good reminder?
I really want to check out the use of a WhatsApp, like one big WhatsApp group. That's something I hadn't thought about before. In Pockets, I've heard of that and know that it can be a good tool, particularly with our families that maybe don't have a current US phone number. And then maybe they still have a phone number that's from another country. So That was a great thing to hear about. So thank you, Tabitha.
I'm going to take away, I'm going to try and do a multilingual tech family night. I absolutely love that idea. I feel a lot of times our families aren't connected because they simply haven't been shown, but doing that in their home language is going to be great for them. So that's something I'm going to take away from this, and I'm excited about that.
I really like the part about the language asset and having that mindset of don't blame the families just because they might be changing uh, phone numbers all the time and they have things that come up, but how can we as schools think outside the box and come up with a way to still charge on and connect with them. So I really like, yeah, you got to figure it out.
Yeah, I love that. And I probably would pick that one too, Jeremy, because I think that's sometimes the biggest part of my work and sometimes the hardest is for my own self, but also with people that I'm working with, just making the immediate assumption that all family members want what's best for their kids and they're doing the best that they can. And, I think sometimes from where we sit behind the phone or behind the computer screen, it's easy to think, oh, they just don't care because they're not involved. So I echo that.
One of the things you were talking about, Heather, it made me think how useful it is to network with organizations that might have access to groups that we maybe don't. To invite them to the table, to consult with them and see how they can network, and also, inviting them to serve on a stakeholder way to be critical of how we're reaching different populations and actually provide us with information about, is the website set up so people can access it? Is the communication making sense to all families? Those outside organizations can be a resource that is really helpful toward the goals that you're stating here.
Yeah, and oftentimes they have um, some history with families that have built these trusting relationships that aren't always relationships that we see within our schools. And so, really leaning on them to use their relationship to help connect us better with families. So we kind of talked about the second one. The second one is, something that you might take back and suggest in your school or work environment. But I feel like some of the things that we named probably blend into that prompt. Is there anything specific that's standing out to you for that one? Something specific that you're taking back that you're going to try in 5 minutes from now or talk to someone about? You're going to text up, I heard this great idea.
Heather, I want to say what you shared that your superintendent does every Friday is amazing. um, so I don't know what you guys feel. I don't know how you guys, everyone on this call, can actually take that back and think about how can you adapt that to your district, one way or another. But I think that's great.
Yeah, I like that. And I know that in some other places, I don't know, Tabitha, if it's you guys, but principals opening up pockets of time to have coffee with family members. Is that you guys?
We do coffee with the superintendent, sipping with the
Okay.
superintendent
Oh, that's
event.
right.
That's what we do here. They are not as regular as you guys are doing them. Ours are monthly typically. And we do rotating locations. So sometimes it'll be at a community breakfast spot. Blueberry Hill is a great one, or it'll be at the local school, maybe the intermediate or an elementary. But again, trying to meet our families where they are and getting that opportunity to be in front of our superintendent. We get great turnout though for those. They're fun.
That's great. Well, thank you all for piping in and sharing out. I appreciate that. We will share the slide deck along with the resources that are linked. And feel free to reach out at any time with questions, ideas, or a thought partnership. I'd love to hear other ideas that are going on. But thanks for your time and your attention.